Mr. Asmer, huh? Okay. We'll see how we do with Create React App today. Hey, wow, so many folks. That's great. Welcome to the party. I wanted to show you actually what's going on outside my house right now. So it's a little interesting. This is my backyard right now. So yeah, there's no sound. That's weird. I can't. Really? That is weird. There's no sound at all. Oh, interesting. All right, cool. So hopefully you can hear this. Please put into the chat if you can hear it. So this is my backyard right now. It's in like full-on Silent Hill mode, and then over here is my front yard. It's just so funny to be like, what is going on out there? It happens every once in a while, but usually it burns off by mid-morning. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, just figured I'd set the context, set the mood a little bit for you. And all right. So yeah, we released 2 videos this week. One was for porting the CRA React app to Next.js, and the other was around React Tract, which just got released like last week. And I was like, oh, you know what? I just kind of want to do React Tract because I'm kind of more into that right now. But hey, if you're interested, and I'm sure Mohadin is all over this, you can also set the color of the Atlas V rocket back there, the Saturn V rocket back there, by just doing color and then changing it to green or whatever you want. There you go. So just have some fun with that while we go. Is the tree dead out there? Which one? This. Oh well, it's fall. Everything is alive. It's just everything's lost its tree, its leaves right now. So there's a few evergreens in there, but otherwise it's mostly just fall. I'll take a picture in summer. You'll be like, whoa, wow, so much green. It's crazy. Okay, so yeah, the problem that you face when you are using useState and useContext, which is built into React, is that sometimes when you change the useContext value, then everything underneath it's going to go and get rebuilt. It's going to go and repaint or re-render. So how do you solve that? Well, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to solve that efficiency problem. But let me first demonstrate what that efficiency problem is. If I were to go and type into here, right, we expect that if I type into here, this is going to match that. So this is displayed here. And this is using useContext. So it's the same thing over here, right? But here's the weird deal. If I type in this, then watch over here, this one is re-rendering. So every time this re-renders, it uses math.random, and it just puts a new random number in there. So that's how you see it. So if I type in, it's got 0.12 something right now. So if I change this to A, now it's 0.04. So these are re-rendering when this guy changes, and that's a problem, because if you have a big state tree with lots of data in it, then it's going to be an efficiency problem if you update basically the entire page on every single hit. Another way to show this off is to go into the inspector, hit Command-Shift-P on Mac. I don't know what it is on Windows. I'm probably Control-Shift-P, not Command. Type in Paint. I guess my hands are not on the keyboard in the right positions. And then do show paint flashing rectangles. And now I can just type in here, and you can see graphically that this one's getting updated on every single keystroke over here, which it shouldn't be. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how this is fixed, and then we'll actually walk through it step by step. So I'm going to go bring in the React Tract create container code as opposed to this context code, which is basic React. Hit save. Come over here. I'll refresh just for good measure, and now I can type. And as you can see, only the data that actually, only the components that actually require changes are actually re-rendering. And basically, we've been able to use exactly the same context and state code, but just kind of wrap it in this tracking system. That means that it's only going to update when the data that we're watching is updating. Okay, so let's go through this step by step, and I'm going to use a couple of the things that I learned from your comments, which is great. And the first one is I'm going to use this create React app with my app name, but I'm going to add on the dash template type equals TypeScript, and we'll see if that gets us into TypeScript much more easily. And also I need to bring up the, React Tract. So I need the documentation for that as well. Quick start, there we go. Okay, oh, look at that. It actually says that, so let's see. All right, let's do that. npx create React app, and we'll go in there. All right. So let's create one called test2, and then do TypeScript. How's everybody doing today? Getting ready for the great weekend? Any good plans? I mean, again, still pandemic days. My daughter is building her own PC, and she needs a GPU, which I have. So I'm probably going to go take the GPU down to college for her. It's the only thing that remains. Man, GPUs are tough to get nowadays. Apparently, she wants to get a 3080, and it's really hard to get one nowadays. So I don't know. I'm sure y'all are struggling with that as well. Dense fog, indeed. Yeah, it's so cool. It's like living in, as I say, like in Silent Hill. But the reason that Silent Hill did that was for, graphics optimization. The cards back then couldn't handle deep depth of field. So why not put everything in fog? Save yourself the trouble. Okay. Okay. So let's try this out. Did it actually create TypeScript? That's one thing. Well, it didn't look like it created TypeScript. So let me go and change these to TypeScript. App.tsx, index.tsx, and let's see. Let's run. Yeah. No, it didn't. Well, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that. I guess that didn't handle the TypeScript thing. All right. Types React. $2080 Ti. Is that a good? So I'm giving her a GTX 970 that I'm not using anymore. So I don't know. Is that good? I've heard it's okay. I mean, I looked around and like, is the GTX 970 even a decent card anymore? And I think it is. So there you go. All right, let's try starting this again now that we've installed all our TypeScript stuff. Oh, let me go and get rid of the old one. Okay. It's so friendly. Would you like to do it on the port? Sure, why not? Okay, looks pretty good. Wow, got that a lot of screen updating there. All right, let's make the CSS first work for us. So take that all down. Let's see, rid of all this stuff. Don't need that. Let's make it max width as 1200 pixels. Margin auto. We'll make it a grid. Make the template columns 1FR and 1FR. That basically means 50%, 50%. For those of you not familiar with the grid stuff. Grid column gap. That's what I wanted. Is 1 rem. And that's why I do it. That's basically 50-50. Oh, I want to make it big too, so we can see it. Font size is extra large. I could make that like rems if I wanted to, but whatever. And let's see. I also want to make the inputs because we're going to be using those as well. Those extra large. And then we'll just put hello world in there and see how we go. Hello world. Okay, yeah, that looks nice. All right, cool. So let's go over here. 2080 Ti is last gen's top card. Yeah. Basically, she wants to play Valorant real fast. It's got to be, what is it, 100 and some FPS now or something like that. On the plus side, her latency is super low because she's on the university's fiber, so that's handy. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is create some state. So I'm going to use Daishi has made some great documentation here, by the way. I think it's Docusaurus documentation. It's really, really good. There's a JavaScript and a TypeScript flavor. Since we're using TypeScript, we use the TypeScript one. And I'm going to copy that out. And this is actually, even if you don't do anything else from this video, if you never use React Tract, I actually think this is a really nice way that he's set up his useContext stuff. So let's go over that. So on the initial state, I'm going to change this out to text 1 and text 2, text 1 and text 2. But otherwise, I'm going to keep it basically exactly the same. So we got this little function here. It's a function, and it returns a useState from React with that initial state. And then we create a context. So when you use context and useState together, you've got to create the context first. So what is the context going to hold? Well, the context is going to hold the return type of the type of useMyState. So type of useMyState just basically means the type that is this. The type of that is going to return an array, and that array is going to be basically state and state set, just like that. So this is a really nice shorthand way of saying that the context we are going to pass around is going to have the array, the state and state set, or it's going to be null in the beginning, because we can't actually run useState outside of the context of a component. So we have to start with null. And then down here in the shared state provider, we are running useMyState right there, and that's going to actually do that useState, and it's going to pass it on to its children. So there was an interesting comment on this over in the video up here. Where are you? Alexi made some really good comments about this. Let me make sure that doesn't play. I don't want to hear my voice again. Oh, there we go. I don't know. Sometimes y'all seem to like my voice. I don't care for it all that much. Okay. So Alexei Lyov basically says that this is going to be rerun on every time and give us a different state every time. And I don't think that's the case, because because we're running it here, we're actually storing the result of that. And it is running that useState, which is a hook, and hooks are going to return the same output of that useState every single time, at least as a reference. So I don't think that there's a leak there, but we could be proven wrong, and I'll try that later in the video, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so the output of this store is a provider and a custom hook called useSharedState. And the custom hook basically goes and gets that context just as you would. And then if there is no value, that basically means that you haven't wrapped your app in one of these providers before you've used the shared state hook. So he's going to put a nice little console log for you there saying, hey, you need a shared state provider. You got to put that in. And then we're going to return that contextual value, which again is going to be state and state set. Or set state, if you prefer. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so that looks good. So we have our state set up. And again, this is a really nice pattern, really clean pattern for how to do useState and useContext. And when you're looking at alternatives for state management from Redux or MobX, this is a viable alternative, right? And in fact, this React Tract makes it a very viable alternative in comparison to some, other things that we've covered in extensively on this channel, like Valshio, Jotai, Recoil. All of those are trying to fill in this gap that was left by hooks not having global state. Okay, so let's go and make ourselves some. Well, first let's bring in the store, shared state provider. I don't really know why it does that. It really should just go and put it right in there, whatever. And we'll bring in our hook, our custom hook. So the first thing we need to do is wrap our app in that shared state provider. Looking good. Let me make it a little wider for us because we're not going to use multiple files here, although we could, no problem. So the first thing I need to do is have an input control. So I'm going to make an input for text1. And it's going to first get the state, as well as that state set, because it's going to be setting state. And it's going to use our custom hook. So use shared state. And now if I do like state dot, because it's TypeScript, it knows that state includes text1 and text2. So that's handy. So let's go and return an input with a value of state.text1. And then for onChange, we're going to take the event and we're going to do a state set with the current state, but with text1 overridden. So text1 now becomes whatever the event target value is. And that's it. That's all you need for an input. And let's see, let's also make a text1 that's going to show off that text. And in this case, we're just going to use the state. Don't need to actually set state because we're not going to be setting the state out of this thing. And we just make a div. Oops, not a div. What's a div? I don't know. Who knows? It's not a div. State text1. Okay. So now we've got to use these. So let's create a div because it's 2-column layout. So we don't need a container. Have an input. And what would React be if it weren't just basically a big blob of nested divs, right? So we'll make a text1 there. And now if I go back over here to React app, now I can, there you go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Nice. And if I wanted to do the thing that Daishi recommended to go and see whenever we're repainting, we can just put a line break in there and then do a math.random. There you go. So now every time this function gets rerun, that random will change. It's not part of the state. It's just a nice way, a little debugging thing if you're in React to go in and you're looking to see if you have, when you're repainting, that's actually just a nice little trick. Nice handy trick. So let's copy this out and create the same things for text and 2. So I'm going to change this 1 to a 2 and change this 1 to a 2 and then make another div. Same deal. Change the 1s to 2s. And there you go. Blah, wah, wah, wah. Just like that. How easy is that? Okay, so, and this has that same issue. So again, we'll go over here to our paint deal. And when I change it, boom, we got that. Okay, so let's follow Daishi's advice and we'll scroll all the way down here. And we'll first install React Tract. Well, we'll just use yarn add React Tract. Bring up my terminal. Stop it. Any questions so far? Be sure to jump in. Hey, I don't get it. Tell me what's up. All that good stuff. Or I could do more ASMR if you want. All right. Let's stop the painting there. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Let's bring that. That's not. Yeah, so, whoa. Paint. That's interesting. App manifest. Okay, so now we're showing paint still. Okay, and so this is basically, we haven't done anything with React Tract. We just installed it, so it's not like any magic. You actually have to use it. So the way that you use it is you import this create container from React Tract. Pop that in there. And then instead of all the stuff that was below use my state, we're going to use this instead. So I'll go over here and I'll comment out this and I'll show you how these two things line up. So what happens is, so this create container is expecting a function that in turn calls the the React hook useState, and it returns a provider, which we then map to export as shared state provider. So that matches this over here. You can call that whatever you want. You know, do Blacky provider if you want. You get to name it. And then the similar sort of thing, use Tract becomes mapped to use shared state, which has the exact same API surface. Yeah, it is cool. It's new, actually. Yet, I mean, Daishi's been doing some great work. It's like anytime I see Daishi Twitter, I'm like, oh, maybe that's another video in the making. And there you go. Look at that. So now we've essentially cleaned up our efficiency problem. If I change text1 over here, all that re-renders is text1 and not text2 over there, as you would in a naive implementation of useContext and useState. So let me just emphasize this a little bit more. So if I go back over to text2, and I could just add on like text1 in there. So now that actually does track both of them. So I will hit save. And now anytime I change this, right, both of these update. But if I go over here, only this guy updates because this guy is tracking text1 and text2. And text2 is the only thing to change. So you're seeing that it's actually looking very nicely and tracking which parts of the state I'm using in my render, and then only re-rendering me if those data states change. Is there a way to prevent re-rendering of the components that use the shared state? Yep, that's exactly what we're doing. That is exactly it. So yeah, so this component, let's just rewind for a second here. By the way, some of the little weirdnesses there are caused by React refresh, like managing, having that state updating stuff. So sometimes it's good to just refresh your app and then get a clean slate. So text1 is connected to this guy, text2 is connected to this guy, and now anytime I change this guy, only this connected component changes, even though they're both looking at the shared state, the same piece of shared state, which is great. So imagine if you had like a much more complex piece of state than basically two items, which you're going to have, right? This is obviously a ridiculously small, contrived example. So yeah, if you had a much larger state tree, React Tract is going to make sure that the components that look at text2 only get updated when text2 changes, and so on and so forth. All right. In the video that I released yesterday, I guess. Yeah, so that now, is there any reason to use useState? useState, it's cool. It's got like, kind of setter stuff in it, getter stuff. Let's go and do like a taste test comparison. So let's go over to, what is it? Bundlephobia. That's the one. So let's take a look. React Tract is going to be 5K. And Bundlephobia again. We're going to look at useState. And useState is, wow, 1.5K. So yeah, that's nice. So, that there's something right there. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's interesting. What's yeah, so hold on. Let me just throw a few more in there. So there's recoil. Recoil's big, man. Recoil's 48. And then Jotai, which is the sort of trimmed down version of that, and there's no Jotai, just Jotai, is 7.3. So yeah. So a lot of the Daishi libraries like useState and React Tract, I mean, these are all really small, but wow, useState is very, very, very small, 1.5 KB. So yeah, that's something worth thinking about when you do your equations of which one you want to use. Okay, so Yeah, let's go take a look back at app.tsx for a second. And you could make the argument that, hey, why are you using useContext at all here, right? This is ridiculous, right? You could easily pass all this stuff down via props, and maybe that would be okay. Maybe we should just use useState, right? Hey, it's only there. It's a small app, so let's try it out. Let's try out useState instead and see if that's actually better. So we're not going to use context. We're going to have state, and we're going to have state set, and we're going to have react.useState like that, and it's going to have text1, text 2, text 2, check. You guys really freaked me out in the beginning there with like, hey, your audio's not working. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I don't even know. All the buttons are pressed, right? All right, import React from React. Cool. All right, so now we got some state and some set state. So let's just go and pass these down to, how do I want to do that? I want to, I want to do this a little differently. I want to have like a container, because I want to demonstrate a couple of things here. So I'm going to have a container, container, and it's going to take a state and set state. Oh no, yeah, hold on. It's going to take a state. I'm kind of doing this on the fly. So if I'm messing this up, then, that's that. And let's see. Okay, so the container, and there's a reason I'm going to get here eventually with this. So container is going to take, we'll just call this state. There's like a 15-second delay on the audio? Really? do that kind of thing. Okay. So let's say we got a container, and it's going to take state, and that state is that, the array thing. And that is, I'm just going to get around TypeScript for the moment. And we'll say that this is going to be, value is state.text1. That's interesting. Really? 30-second delay? Really? God, that's amazing. Wow. Okay. 30 seconds? That's crazy. Sorry about that. I will attempt to work that out at some point here. I didn't know that was the case. So we're going to have a text thing that takes a value, and that value is a string. No audio video on YouTube are in sync, but not with real time. Oh, for the Lightbot? Oh, yeah. Lightbot's slow, man. Lightbot is working off an Arduino, dude. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Lightbot is slow. Okay. So we have text, and let's get rid of text 1, and let's get rid of input 1, and just change this to input. And this is going to have state and set state. And state, well, actually, you know what? Ugh, God. Okay. State field and set state. Oy. Okay. And you know what? I'm just going to make that, I'm going to get around TypeScript again. Just call that any. All right. So I'm going to say state and field. And then set state. Oh, that's cool, actually. So take the state, and then we'll take the field. There you go. That's actually not that bad. So cool. Oh, state set. How about that? Okay, cool. And nice. So this is going to be field equals text1 and state equals state and state.state. Ugh. Wow. Oh, no, it's state 0. Wow. Okay. And set set equals state index 1. All right. I get that this is a bit contrived, guys, so bear with me for a second. It's already becoming messy. Yes, exactly. Ugh. Okay, so, but first off, one, it works. Cool. But it also demonstrates the same problems. Actually, let me get rid of the shared state provider because we no longer need it. So we can be entirely on useState. So, I mean, when you think about it, this is not terribly unclean. I mean, yeah, but we've got this container in there. And all right, so again, this demonstrates the same problem. So if you just use useState, then anytime that state changes, anything that's going to depend on any portion of that state is going to re-render. So that's why container re-renders and everything within container re-renders. So the sum of all this work is, by the way, if you want an efficient state management system and you want to use useState as some sort of global state for that, be sure to use useContext and then something like React Tract, if you're not using Zustand or one of the other state managers. But another question that came up, and this is from Alexei, was around this. So if I've got this guy, and we had use my state in the original example, and it was a function, and it did that, right? Because this was initial state, const initial state, like that. This is literally exactly that code. Is this going to mess me up? That's the question. Because he took issue with this. He's like, oh, well, this is going to rerun every time, and that's going to be a problem. So let's try it out. So let's hit save and go back over here. And look, it's not a problem. And the reason being that, this is literally the same as doing this. Oops, hold on. That, right? And then putting state in there like that. I mean, those two, that's equivalent. And so, yeah, we're not, because and this is the reason why, this is a hook, right? And so what React is doing for us, and this is the nature of hooks, is basically saying for this instance of app, when I run this and I do a hook like useState, right, I'm going to go take the output of that and then cache it and connect it to this particular instance of app. And then anytime I run I'm re-rendering app, I'm going to automatically reconnect that with the persisted hook, right? So hooks don't get rerun like that, right? Once you run useState once, you're always going to be able, you're going to get the same reference back every single time. Like the useState returns a state and it returns a state setter. On every single refresh, the contents of this might change, but the reference to that never changes. Never changes. There you go. So that's why that's not a problem to use it like that. Anyway, that's why I did all of this stuff around needing to have one state in there. I know it was crazy and this and that and the other thing, but anyway, so long story short, Alexei, I don't think that's a problem, and I think Daishi's pattern here of using this right there is not an actual problem for performance or anything else, so I think it's fine. Okay. Questions. Who's got the questions? And if you don't have any questions, I think I'll be zipping on over to the Discord server, and you can ask me any questions there you want without it being any on video or recorded in any way, so you can feel comfortable talking to me and just, shooting it. So yeah, if you have any more questions about React Tract, let me know. And cool news coming up. I'm going to be releasing the Blue Collar Coder community project pretty soon here. So it's pretty exciting stuff. If you want to jump in, it's going to be an open source project related to music. So I'm excited about that. I hope it gets your interest piqued. It's also in the initial release going to use glassmorphic design. So if you're interested in how Tailwind can produce a glassmorphic interface, that's that. Well, I'll show you what an example of that might be. Glassmorphism. Let's see. Glassmorphism, it's just pretty, and people have been thinking that Apple is going to be going this way. So yeah, that's the design styling. You kind of got nice, like a nice faded background in the back, and you got these sort of glassy elements. And some of the unique characteristics are that you got this sort of external border around these that is a little bit brighter of a white, and then you can kind of have sections around that. Yeah, please go for it, Chaitana, Sharma. That's absolutely. I'm here for get your questions answered. Yeah, so that's glassmorphic design. Yeah, cool. All right, let's go take a look. Stripe. Didn't Stripe just get bought or something like that? Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah. So this open source software or open source little project that we can all work on and contribute to, it uses glassmorphic design. I'll show you that probably this weekend. Make a video and kind of show you around the project. But this is pretty. I like it. It's a good look. It'll be interesting to see. You see how they don't use it on mobile. It'll be interesting to see how they integrate it on mobile. So yeah, there's also Neomorphism, which is another thing that people are thinking might be a big deal this year. I'm not quite as sold on that. Basically, the idea is that you got these kind of raised sections, like raised and sunken sections. And the idea is that a neomorphic design would kind of parallel what you might see in the real world, like actual physical buttons. And when you think about it in like maybe a medical setting of like those buttons that have that Mylar keypad kind of stuff where they're, kind of just bumps. Yeah. So Chaitana, you got a question for me there on design? Yeah. So that's basically two different trends that people are seeing that might replace the flat material UI trend that we've been seeing for like the past 100 years. I think the last time that Tailwind versus Chakra, any pros and cons? Chakra has got the React components baked into it, and that would be the big pro for that. I love Chakra. I didn't use it this time because I was trying to build components out of the box, and I didn't want to get in the way of the neomorphic stuff or the glassmorphic stuff. We could change it, So if you look at the code and you're like, hey man, this could be better in Chakra, I'd be happy to go that way. So let's see, what we got for Chaitana's question. I have a repository class that is an interface between my core logic and my external services. So implicitly, repository has auth on the DB class object. If I need an auth.uid on the DB, how should I go about it? I meant software design, not UI design, clearly. That's a pretty in-depth question. Why don't you send me a Twitter DM with your GitHub repo, and I'll go take a look and see if I can give you some advice on that. So, all righty. I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you want to, jump on over onto the Discord server. I'll be there for a bit, and we can have a chat. It's always fun to see you guys. It's the Discord server is really growing by leaps and bounds, so that's great to see. And of course, thank you so much for us hitting 10,000 subscribers this week. That is just bonkers. So thank you so much. It's all about you, and it's all about your comments and suggestions and all that, as I said. All right, I'll see you over on Discord.